How would you like to be able to overcome challenges and feel like you're truly living life? For that, you need to wake up, stop existing, and start living, as Barry Finley today says. And what's so special about Barry Finley is that he's an award-winning fiction and nonfiction author, mountain climber, golfer, philanthropist, and grandfather. So the first question I have is, what's the secret to your success? And does it have anything to do with mastering, overcoming challenges, and truly living life? Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Hi, Lily, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I've been fortunate in my life because I had a career of 31 years with the federal government of Canada, and then I retired at 55 years of age. I kind of got bored within about 6 months, and I started consulting. And then I climbed a mountain. I had a bit of a health scare and improved my lifestyle and climbed a mountain. During my retirement, I did the consulting for 10 years. I raised quite a bit of money to help the kids of Africa. And I've written 12 books, including both fiction and nonfiction. So I've been lucky, and I think I've been successful. I'm not really sure I understood what my secret for success was until I actually climbed the mountain. And that I realized at that time that the mountain was kind of a metaphor for life, that there are challenges. Every day we met challenges when we were climbing the mountain. And I realized that, we do face challenges every day. And so the secret really became, I came up with a motto about 2 years after I climbed the mountain, when I realized that it was a metaphor. And I came up with a motto that every mountaintop is within reach if you just keep climbing. And to me, that's the secret of my success. I didn't realize it when I was probably the 31 years when I was in my career. And I didn't realize it up to the point of climbing the mountain. But then I realized that you have to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and basically just keep climbing. And that turned out to be the secret that I've been following ever since.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs who are too afraid to continue climbing because of perhaps traumas or fears that they have encountered, because of people that have been, naysayers and people who have stopped them in their tracks, people who have, scammed them or treated them badly. What would you say to those people who are struggling to literally do the simplest step of all, which is to put a foot in front of the other and do the next logical thing?
Yeah, I actually came up with what I call the 5 Ps. I interviewed 8 people to write a book called Just Keep Climbing. I interviewed 8 people that have gone through various challenges in their lives, and some of them were relatively simple challenges, and they went right up to somebody that had a devastating medical experience. And I've used those 5 Ps to just keep climbing, and I think every one of the 8 people that I interviewed have done exactly the same thing. So if I can just run through the 5 Ps quickly, the first one is persistence. And that's kind of all-encompassing. So it includes courage, resilience, determination. They're all things that you need to do to take that next step. And then the second P is patience. We don't have to do everything yesterday. We can take our time. And again, if I go back to the example of climbing the mountain, we were told pole. The mountain was in Africa. It's Mount Kilimanjaro. We were told pole by the guides pretty much every step of the way. And pole means slowly in Swahili. And so that's what we did. We took our time. We kind of set small goals to make it through the day. And then eventually we got to the top of the mountain by using patience. And then the third P is preservation. And by that, I mean, we have to preserve our strength and for the big battles. We all come across little battles, but if we waste our time and energy focusing on those little battles, we're not going to make it to the top of whatever we're doing. So we need to focus on the big battles at the same time. And then the fourth one is perspective. And I think we have to keep the end goal in mind. We have to, while we accomplish small goals, we have to realize that there is a big goal at the end of the day. And that's the one that we need to be aiming for. So we need to keep those things in perspective. And then the final one is pride. And by that, I mean, when we reach a small goal, we should be satisfied. We should congratulate ourselves and pat ourselves on the back for reaching the small goal and prepared to go on and reach the next goal. And I could add a sixth one to that, and that's passion. I've applied passion more in my retirement than I did in my working career, I think, although I enjoy my working career. But certainly passion is another one that we need to consider.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs come out of the freeze mode? What I mean is that sometimes when you have like a really big trauma, you could end up being in a freeze mode where you feel like you want to withdraw from the world and you want to do nothing. How do you come out of that so that you can again feel powerful, strong enough to continue to make that next step that will lead you onto big things in life?
Yeah, I don't think, quite often we define our success by what other people have done. And I think we need to really avoid that. We need to define our own success. And a trauma or something can certainly stop us in our tracks. But then I think we need to think about what we've done to be successful to date and be satisfied with what we've done. And then just try and be determined enough to draw up the courage to take the next step. And sometimes it's not easy. There were people in my book who have, I mentioned the woman who had a devastating medical diagnosis, and she was actually given a couple of years to live. And there's probably nothing more traumatic than that. And that was in 2020. And she's taken the attitude that she's going to live every moment, live every day, and not worry about, the next day. Worry about the next day when the next day comes. And so I think it's a matter of taking small pieces, small goals, things that you're going to be sure you can accomplish. And then that will lead to the bigger goal in the end. It's kind of what I was talking about in terms of preservation, one of the 5 Ps. You have to preserve your strength and draw up the courage to take that next step.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs increase their pressure thermostat? What I mean by that is that there are people, for example, who can become a president and have, so many lawsuits and be in debt like hundreds of millions. And then there's other people who perhaps have become in debt, I don't know, 15,000 pounds or $15,000. And that becomes so unbearable to them that they do certain actions that, they're not in this life anymore. So it's like, and that's because their pressure thermostat is a lot lower than other people. So there are other people who can withstand incredible pressure. And even to the point that they feel, oh, it's normal. It's normal to have debt. It's normal to leverage debt. It's normal to have people talk badly about you in the press every single day. And there are others who, like, a single word will hurt them so much that they will be like withdrawing from the world for years. So I wonder, what do you suggest for people to kind of build that inner strength where they can cope with more?
You know what? I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who are going to give you advice, not necessarily what you want to hear, but advice that is going to help you moving forward. I think there are a lot of leaders, and particularly in government, who surround themselves with people that will tell them what they want to hear, not necessarily what they should hear. And I think that's a recipe for failure. And so I think it's important to surround yourself with people who are going to give you feedback that's valuable feedback. So it could be critical feedback, but at the same time, they're going to give you positive reinforcement and help you take that next step. To me, that's one of the most important things in leadership, is to surround yourself with with positive people, with probably the best people you can get, and let them do their job and take advice from them when it's given.
Thank you. Now, I have a friend, okay, and for example, I like to tell people what they need to hear and not what they like to hear, right?
Right.
Do that. For example, I tell him certain things sometimes, like, for example, let's say he does a video and there's something that he needs to improve on, and he might take it really the wrong way and get upset and withdraw for a few days just because he cannot cope with that constructive feedback. And I'm trying to help, okay? And like that, I have seen a lot of people in my circle who simply cannot cope with listening to what they need to hear. And although the people around them, like me, are trying to help them, they cannot take that. So imagine people who are trying to help them, they cannot take that. What about people who are actually actively trying to hurt them and comment and, trolls online and, cyberbullying and all that? How can they manage that? Like, what is one actionable step they can do to build that inner strength so they can feel less triggered by these kind of like stressors that they perceive in their environment?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I think part of it could be in the way the constructive criticism was presented. I was always told to offer criticism, offer positive reinforcement, offer positive reinforcement, offer criticism, offer positive reinforcement. So you kind of sandwich the criticism in with the positive reinforcement. And I think that's probably the best way to get to these people. For the people who are triggered by it, it's a tough one. And I think when you're on the side of the person giving the criticism, it's using that sandwich approach. And but maybe these people need more positive reinforcement than negative, and kind of sneak in the constructive criticism when you can. It's from the side of the person who's ignoring the positive or ignoring the advice, or who is offended by the advice. I'm not sure how you change that, but I think you really have to focus on the positive aspects and just kind of sneak in the constructive criticism when you can.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs build mental resilience? So the reason I ask this is, for example, I'm one of the most resilient people that I know. And I'm saying this because for a long time, when I came from Romania, okay, with $100 in my pocket. And for a long time, I was working as an au pair. An au pair is basically like a cheap babysitter.
Yeah.
And I remember that if, let's say, the person I was working for didn't feed me for an entire day, like if there was no food, I could last an entire day. And it's like normal to me. It's no big deal, right? Like, I don't think any other person would kind of like last and find it normal to like not eat for 12, 15 hours a day. And then like cope with that and, do certain chores and iron and, do other things, right? So I wonder how you suggest entrepreneurs build that mental resilience where it's also normal to them to kind of like withstand incredible pressure at work and to kind of like keep going regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I think we saw that. We've traveled around the world quite a bit. We've seen, for example, when we raised the money for the kids in Tanzania, there were kids there that had absolutely nothing, and they were happy. They were absolutely thrilled to see us. They were happy to be receiving an education. They had no pencils, they had no notebooks, they had no books. Those kids are resilient, and there are people like them. And the story you just told, that's resilience. And I think the people who aren't able to have that resilience, I think they need to look around and see what other people do. And the more they hear stories about people who have overcome amazing things to do amazing things, I think that will help them build some resilience. But I think the 5 Ps come into patience here again. I think it's it's learning about the persistence and patience and preservation and perspective and pride. And I think collectively those can help them build that resilience and be able to absorb the hits as well as the platitudes.
Thank you. For me, one of the most exciting things that helps me become more mentally resilient is actually finding joy in everything.
Yes.
What I mean by that is, let's say if I was to like have to paint an entire house, which I used to do when I came to London and I was working as a property manager. So if I had to paint an entire house, I would find the fun in that. Okay.
Right.
And I remember a particular incident where I didn't know how to paint my very first time. I just painted, and I painted everything. I painted the walls, the windows, myself, the floor. And, finally, I did manage to kind of clean it all up in the sense that it all worked out. But I did find the fun in that. And actually, as I was exiting the house and I had two big buckets of massive buckets of paint, one of them actually spilled inside the bag, and it actually spilled in front of the house. Okay. So the challenge I had was that nobody wanted to pick me up in a taxi because I looked like I had fallen in paint. And also I had this big pool of paint that had fallen in front of the house. So I had to like scoop it with nothing, with like my own hands. And then I was like covered, and I even had like paint in my hair and everything. And anyway, I finally managed to get a taxi to come with a sheet, like a bed sheet, and pick me up and so on. But I have always managed to find the fun and the joy in absolutely everything. So even I've gone through periods of time when I was a lot younger, again, when I had no food, for example, for a day. And of course, the money would come the next day and so on. But I'd say sometimes I had no food. And I still managed to find the fun and the joy in finding, like a pound or, like a small amount of money that would allow me to buy a piece of chocolate. And that would give me like so much joy, and feel lucky and feel so excited about that. So I wonder about what was that thing that gave you that mental resilience in your case, and that you suggest entrepreneurs leverage as well? Was it also a case of finding the joy in everything, or was it something else that kind of gave you that power and that strength to continue going despite the challenge of climbing a mountain, despite the challenge of suffering from an illness?
I think it's got a lot to do with attitude. What you just described is attitude. And I think I was fortunate enough to be born with being able to laugh at things. And I think very similar to what you just talked about. For me, that I got the joy from my work as well. And even though I'm an accountant, my background is accounting, which isn't very joyful, I guess. But I enjoyed the people around me, and I enjoyed I got the satisfaction from achieving various goals in throughout my career. And certainly when I climbed the mountain, that changed my life completely. It changed my lifestyle, where I ate better, and I've been going to the gym ever since. It was 2009 when I climbed the mountain. So it changed my lifestyle, and it showed me that people are people, and that I wanted to help wherever I could, and I got joy from that. And then I wrote a book about the climb, and enjoyed the writing process so much that I've written another 11 books since. So I think pretty much everything I've done, although there are setbacks along the way, I think you realize that those they've come. You've addressed them, you've kept climbing, you've overcome them, and you've moved on to something else. And I think you get joy and satisfaction from reaching each one of those goals. And it's attitude. It's understanding that you can do it and enjoying the process as you go along through.
Thank you. One of the most interesting things that has helped me, for example, to overcome challenges is my ability to not stress over the small stuff. Mm-hmm. And to become less triggered by people's actions. And I think it was kind of paralleled by my own self-acceptance and acceptance of others. Do you find that that is an important skill? And if yes, how can entrepreneurs start to practice that? Because, for example, let's say I love clean places, okay? And I love, drinking from a clean cup. And it's like, I would never kind of feel great if I didn't drink from a clean cup. Okay, so that's like the thing that I have to have. But everything else about people's behavior, I find that a lot of if, let's say, if someone was to cancel my podcast and not turn up, it doesn't trigger me at all.
Right.
I don't know why. Like, I'm just thinking, okay, you can just rebook. And if they were to cancel again, it doesn't trigger me. They can like rebook 5 times. It doesn't trigger me at all, because I'm just looking at it as, well, that means I just have an extra 45 minutes to like cook or to send some emails, or you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't bother me. Whereas maybe if someone was to offer me to drink from a dirty cup, that could trigger me. Right. But not to the point of like thinking about it for days. It would be like, oh, maybe I should wash this cup, you know what I mean? So I wonder, like, how important do you think this skill of not sweating over the small stuff is? And how can entrepreneurs do it if they haven't tried it before?
I think the skill is to reinvent yourself. So I'll give you an example of one of the women in my book, Just Keep Climbing. She's an extreme ultramarathoner. So she's run across the Gobi Desert, the Sahara Desert. She swam from Alcatraz to San Francisco. She's done all these amazing things. All of a sudden, she was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, which is hardening of the heart. She had to stop running. She had to stop doing the things that she loved. And so she took a bit of time to kind of mourn this significant change in her life. And now she keeps bees, and she walks in the forest and bird watches, and she golfs, and she's been told by her doctor that she can run a bit, but she has to listen to her body and decide when to stop. So I think, that was a major change in her life, and she reinvented herself. And I think I've kind of done that as well when I retired, and I retired from an accounting career and started writing books. So I became creative. And most accountants, if they become creative, end up in jail. So, I think it's a matter of taking a bit of time and mourn whatever it is the change in your life is, and then reinvent yourself. Just realize that you're going to have to do something else. And it can be a major change. It can be a minor change. But and the small stuff, I don't think it's worth spending time over. And that was one of my 5 P's is preservation. Preserve yourself for the big things, and don't let the small things get in the way of your success.
Thank you. One thing that actually triggers me is when I'm trying to help people and they don't get that. Right. So I wonder, how do you cope, for example, with, like you trying to be like the best possible version of you and being your best, most supportive self, and then offering your support, and then people like not getting that?
Yeah, I think for an author, when you get a 1-star review, that's a good example of the kind of thing you're talking about. And when I wrote our first book, our son and I wrote Kilimanjaro and Beyond after the climb. And we received a literary award one day. And the same day, we got a 1-star review. And it said, it's a good thing the Finleys can write it's a good thing the Finleys can raise money because they certainly can't write. And so my first reaction was to fire back and say, we just got a literary award, so let's have a little balance here. But my wife told me to set it aside for a while, think about it. So I did. And obviously, firing back was not the approach. You can't do that anyway, but firing back was not the approach. So I think, we all get setbacks, We all get criticism, and it's hard. It hurts, but I think, people have to realize that you can't please everybody. And so, you just have to keep that in mind, that not everybody is going to be your friend, and not everybody is going to give you positive advice or listen to what you're saying or agree with what you're saying. It's a hard lesson to learn, but it's certainly one that comes with age and experience.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs live life, as in truly feel like they're living life? What would they have to do differently that you feel perhaps they're not doing now?
Well, I think one of the things we tend to do is define our success based on what somebody else is doing. So there'll always be somebody that has a better car or more money, or they run faster, or they write better books, or whatever, or they've got a better, education. We can't define ourselves that way. We have to define ourselves by what we consider to be successful, and that may not be what everybody else thinks is success. And I find as you go along through life, your definition of success changes. So when I was a teenager, or in my late teens, my idea of success was to have 14 cars and 3 houses scattered throughout exotic places in the world. Of course, that wasn't reasonable, or wasn't realistic. And so my definition of success changed. But I had to create my own definition of success. So, and my definition may not be your definition of success, but that doesn't matter to me, because what I consider successful is what's important to me.
That's interesting. I find that one of the things that has given me a lot of mental resilience as well is reframing what I thought about myself. So I think that whilst my family from a very young age instilled in me the belief that I was stupid and ugly and fat, and it took me a really long time to kind of come out of that, what gave me a lot of resilience was kind of reframing that and noticing that actually a lot of beauty comes from within.
Yes.
So when you see that beauty coming from within, and you kind of keep on learning and keep on studying and do your best to be the best version of yourself every day, then you realize that actually nobody can take that away from you, because people can hurt you, people can talk nasty things about you, but the reality is that you are still going to be that beautiful person that you decide to be within.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. It's necessary to, as I was saying, to define your own success and define who you think you are, and what it is that will make you feel good about yourself. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other people think. Although, as I said before, it hurts when somebody says something negative about you. You tend to let that roll off you after a while. And we all have to develop that inner strength, that ability to take what other people say with a grain of salt and be satisfied with who we are.
Thank you. So the reason why I mentioned this is because from the perspective of you feeling that, like you are stupid, or you are ugly or fat, then what you're creating every single day is a very different future to another future that you could possibly create when you feel, you're confident, you're charismatic, you're fun, you're beautiful, you are smart. From that perspective, you will be creating much more exciting things just because you believe it. And I find that just reframing that and working on reframing that can help you to overcome challenges much better. Because if you're thinking, I'm smart, then you come up with a challenge, then you're going to come up with another belief about yourself, which is, I can withstand anything. I can find a solution for anything. Whereas if you're thinking that you are stupid, you're going to be thinking, actually, I need help. I'm not going to be able to cope with this. I'm not going to be able to solve this issue, right? So what you create in your life depends so much based on your belief about yourself. And that's why I thought it was quite important to mention it. Tell us where entrepreneurs can find your books, your products and services.
Yeah, all of my books are available on Amazon. I've got eight fiction books and four nonfiction books. They're all available on Amazon. They're available through local libraries by order or local bookstores by order. So pretty much anywhere that books are sold. My website is www.barry-finlay, Finlay.com. So people can read more about me there.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.